My name is Lynam. I'm a photographer based in Dublin at the moment. I was born in Ireland, and I spent kind of my earlier years there. And then my parents moved to Paris in, I think, 1989, something like that, 1990. And I spent 2 years living there. And then I returned to Ireland, and 2 years later then I moved to Belgium. So it's sort of those three cities, so Brussels, Paris and Dublin. My dad is an Irish civil servant. He was moving around with that, in fact. I wouldn't say that they were particularly interested in art. I mean, obviously they'd go to the odd exhibition and things like that, but they didn't work in art, or they didn't have any sort of a practice at any stage. My sister did show a lot of interest in art, and she did a lot of ceramics. And at one stage considered going to art college after school, but in the end followed a different route. So actually it was much more likely that she was going to move into the art world, but things played out differently, I guess. I have to say, when I was in college in Dublin, so that would be, just after I finished school, and that was doing my undergrad, I wouldn't have been going to an awful lot of art shows and things like that. I did politics and economics, and then I did a master's in European studies. So I've always had an interest in sort of politics, and I was thinking of maybe working in Brussels, in the area of in the European area, European Commission or something like that. I'd gone down that route. I did a stage and things like that. And it really would have been a little bit later, I think, when I moved. Probably just before I moved to Paris, when I was in Brussels, I started to go and see some exhibitions. And then when I moved to Paris, I started to go and see a lot more, especially as I picked up the camera. And mostly photography at the time, definitely. I remember Raymond Depardon's show at Bibliothèque François Mitterrand in, I think that was like 2007, 2008. I think it was called La France, so this famous work about France. And yeah, that was a really important show at the time. I'd seen other things, but weren't in any way related to what I was doing at the time. I remember seeing an Annie Leibovitz show at the Maison Européenne de la Photographie, but I remember seeing that one at the Raymond Depardon show, and that certainly left a mark. And I guess you can kind of see it in the work now. He was working on large format at the time, which I work on medium format, but just that idea of capturing the banal and how the banal can be so interesting. I picked up a digital camera actually in 2006. It was that time when people were buying cameras a lot more, just because you could buy a digital camera. I wouldn't say that I was. Before that, I really hadn't had much interest in photography. It was just everyone was buying a camera. It was there. I brought it with me. I was studying in Leuven at the time, and sort of just messing around with it, and really slow, maybe 3 million megapixels or something like that. And just got kind of excited about, like anybody when they pick up a camera the first time, what was happening. And then I moved to Paris for work. And so that was kind of my original career path. I'd got a job working for an NGO here in Paris that worked with the European Commission. And that was a great opportunity, and really enjoyed working there with quite a lot of travel involved and things like that. But I was finding I was just using the camera more and more, and every weekend I'd go out, like any hobbyist. But it was becoming much more of a compulsion each weekend. And then I obviously got a better camera, and it very quickly moved from something that was just something at the weekends to something that was almost obsessional very quickly. And it's very hard to know the reasons for that, but I think moving to somewhere like Paris at a certain age, so I was kind of at a very open age in my opinion. So as I alluded to earlier, when I was in university in Dublin, I felt I finished school, but I didn't feel I had a very open mind particularly. I just sort of went there, studied, and kind of got my degree, but I didn't have that experience that a lot of people have in college, where it's all these new opportunities and you're finding new things. I actually found that happened probably a little bit later for me, and probably coincided with moving here to Paris and the kind of sensory overload of moving to a city where there's everything looks interesting and beautiful, ornate. And then you've got access to all these amazing exhibitions, and obviously culture is just so central to French society. And so, there was some sort of an awakening in that sense, for sure. Buying the camera was important, but then another really important moment was discovering that photography wasn't just about one shot. It was very much about this idea of how you could express ideas with a narrative, and how with maybe 15 to 20 photos, you can tell stories. That was like adding another dimension to what I was doing. So I was already excited about this, the idea of just bringing photos home and comparing them and looking at them, what I was finding. But this moment of realizing, starting to look at work and books, and work like Raymond Depardon, for example, that really changed things. I think that really kind of got me in even deeper. It just so happened that I was holding a camera in my hand at that time, I guess. And if I hadn't found photography and had this moment of sort of clarity, or I don't know when I use enlightenment, but I mightn't have got more and more into photography. I think that caused a change in direction, for sure.